to everyone's favorite topic of conversation, which is LeBron James. LeBron James. It seems like everything on the media is LeBron, LeBron. Some people love it, like me. Some people can't stand it, like a bunch of my friends and a bunch of my suite mates. They cannot stand the fact that LeBron is constantly being on the media and constantly being everywhere. But being the oldest player in the NBA and still being as good as he is really something that a lot of people take for granted just because his name is LeBron James. So, as I said previously, LeBron, he recently reached the 40,000 points mark for the regular season. He is the only player in NBA history to ever get to ever reach that point, 40,000 points. Now, being the only player in the NBA to ever do that is absolutely insane, especially when you take into consideration how a lot of people don't really consider LeBron a scorer. Like, it's crazy to think about how scoring might not even be the best aspect of LeBron's game. A lot of people point at LeBron's IQ or his passing as being a key aspect to his game and the best aspect of his game. And it's the fact that LeBron is capable of doing both on the court at any given point in time that really makes him stand out. Because again, usually you'd expect just pure scorers to reach this phenomenon and to pass Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in points. Like, for example, Kareem, Karl Malone, can't stand using his name, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, all of these guys that are in the top 10 in scoring are known specifically for their scoring. But LeBron is different. He's known for doing everything else on the basketball court. And as of right now, there's really I don't think there's any more of an argument for LeBron not being the GOAT. There's zero argument whatsoever. He literally has a triple-double when looking at total stats. 40K points, 10K plus rebounds, and 10K plus assists. That is absolutely insane when you just think of just the overall grasp of LeBron's career and his legacy. It's absolutely ridiculous just what he can do on the basketball court. And it's come to the point now where it's if you think Michael Jordan's the GOAT, you just have a bias towards Michael Jordan. I really genuinely do not see a single argument for Michael Jordan being the greatest basketball player of all time anymore. And it doesn't make any sense to me why people are just so reluctant to even put LeBron in in a top 2 or a top 3 scenario, and they still have all of these players over him. It doesn't make any sense to me, because LeBron is literally the greatest all-around player that this league has ever seen. There is absolutely no part of his game that needs improvement. The only real part of his game that I think everyone, even LeBron fans, can agree with is lacking is his free throw percentage. His free throw shooting over the span of his career, it's not necessarily the greatest. It is good. I mean, 73%, but averaging around 70% from the free throw line as an elite player he is, it's not really it's not really something that's to be expected. Usually the elite scorers and the best of the best players, they always have a very high free throw. Like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry, they all have a very high free throw. And apart from centers who they aren't really known for their free throws. Kareem and Shaq, all of those players aren't really known for their free throws. But given how good LeBron is, and given how his play style is more like a guard, with the fact that he holds the ball and he controls the offense most of the time, it's not really expected for someone like that to really struggle from the free throw line. But that's literally the only part of his game that I think anyone can agree that needs work, or like not even needs work, that isn't like elite, I guess you could say, because everything else he can do at an elite level. He can rebound the ball, he can play make, he can score, he can shoot, he can drive to the basket. He has everything that you could ever ask for in an NBA player, and it really I just don't understand what the logic is and what the bias is anymore towards Michael Jordan. Like, the ring debate, I think, is by far the dumbest debate in all of sports. I can't stand the ring debate whatsoever, because not only does the ring debate not take into account any context, but it also completely diminishes the rest of the players that were on the roster. Like, when you talk about Jordan, you say, 6 rings, and like even in every other sport, you talk about, I'll bring up football, for example. You talk about Tom Brady, you always bring up the rings. You talk about Jordan, you always bring up the rings. And it's like, I understand that those players are are contributed a main factor and a big winning factor into like getting all those championships. Like, they wouldn't have won the championships without any of them, like whether it be Tom, whether it be Michael Jordan. But at the same time, they also wouldn't have won championships without their players on the team. Like, since we're talking basketball, we'll talk Michael Jordan, saying like, if we just say that Michael Jordan has the 6 rings, like, as if he was the only player on the team. Like, what about Scottie Pippen? What about Dennis Rodman? What about Horace Grant? What about Paxton? What about Steve Kerr? What about all of these other players on the roster that impacted the game in some way, shape, or form, that allowed the team to be great? Like, where's the respect for them? Like, if anything, the argument shouldn't be on rings, it should be on finals MVPs, because that just shows that you were the best player on the winning team. And like, you were the reason, like, being the best player on the winning team means that you were a very important and contributing factor to winning that championship. And I feel like using the finals MVP argument as well also just doesn't take into account context. And when you're talking about sports, context is absolutely everything. I mentioned football previously. Like, you want to talk about Tom's 7 rings. I mean, we only talk about that, but the context behind it, about how, like, the Pats were a ridiculous team on the defense. They were a great team offensively, and they had all of these other pieces that also contributed into winning Super Bowls. Same thing with basketball. As I mentioned previously, like, all these other players that have contributing factors that impact the game in some way, shape, or form, they get completely left in the dust when bringing up the ring debate. And it's unfair, and it doesn't take into account any of the context behind those finals matchups. Like, for example, I'll bring up LeBron, since we are talking about LeBron. Whenever everyone looks at his finals record, they think, he's a loser. Like, he's a finals loser. He's not my GOAT because he's lost so many finals. And that is a very dumb argument, because one, you had to make the finals all of those times in order to even be in a position to lose those finals. And that's another thing that gets completely like stuffed under the rug. LeBron making it to the finals 8 straight years, a feat that hasn't been done by any NBA player, and he's done that consecutively for 8 straight years. Like, obviously he didn't win all the time, but his teammates and his teams, they weren't really like good enough to compete against the opponents, or like they would underperform when the lights shine the brightest. Like, for example, and sometimes in LeBron's case, the team is just ridiculously stacked. So, for example, when he lost his first finals on his stint with Cleveland, LeBron didn't really play that well, but this was his first finals appearance. And if you want to be really difficult on LeBron, then you would definitely like be difficult on his first finals appearance. But me personally, being in the finals for the first time, like, that's a lot of pressure. especially considering how he was the best player on that team and the offense literally revolved around him and how well he performed. It was unfair because that's a lot of pressure to put on an extremely young basketball player at that age. And going on into like 2011, that's literally the only series where LeBron legitimately messed up. Yes, as I mentioned in the somebody in the comments, Austin Angulum, I don't know, forgive me if I botched your last name, said 2011 Mavs was bad. Yes, that is the only loss, the only finals loss in LeBron's career where it was legitimately his fault. And people still bring up that finals like to this day because that's literally like the only argument that they could have for LeBron because he played bad in that one series. And well, yes, it's inexcusable. I'm not even going to make an excuse for LeBron playing bad in that series. Absolutely inexcusable the way he played. However, later on in his career, when he continued to make the finals over and over and over again, we've seen that improvement in all sorts of moments, whether it's clutchness, whether it's like they need a basket, overall stats, efficiency, all of that. It's all gone up, and it's done nothing but improve going further down the road in LeBron's career. And the context behind it, like that I was just mentioning, is that the teams that he's had to play in order to like have a chance of winning the finals were ridiculously stacked. So 2014, LeBron James had to go up against the San Antonio Spurs, where they had Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Kawhi Leonard. All four of those players had the opportunity to win the finals MVP. And when you put all four of those players, like, it's just way too much firepower for one player to handle. And people might say, oh, he had teammates like Wade and Bosh, but they weren't playing well in that series. They completely they got scared in that series. They were not playing well. The numbers that they were averaging were far lower than the numbers that they were averaging in previous seasons. Austin also has another thing to say in the chat. 3-1 versus the Warriors was the best performance ever. And there's even an argument for that not even being the best performance. Like, I think 2018 LeBron is by far, like, the best playoff LeBron that I've ever seen, in my personal opinion. But obviously he got swept in the finals, unfortunately. But again, going back into the context, the Golden State Warriors, they won 73 games. And then they picked up Kevin Durant, who was the second best small forward, only behind LeBron James. Like, that team, when you just think about it, 73 wins, and then adding the second best small forward in the league, that's unbeatable. Combining that with the two greatest shooters, with two of the top 5 greatest shooters in NBA history, allowing Kevin Durant to operate the way he needs to, because you can't leave those guys open. It's unfair. Like, and there was absolutely no pressure on Golden State. Like, they had the finals in the bag. They had it every single year in the bag. And the only reason why they didn't three-peat was because Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson got hurt. Like, we all know that the Raptors in 2019, they only won because Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson got hurt. And that is the context that doesn't get talked about when you talk about LeBron and his finals record. And it's completely unfair because I don't know how you expect anyone to beat that Golden State Warriors team with how the Cleveland Cavaliers were playing in that final series. The only player that really showed up for LeBron James was Kyrie Irving. And I'm sorry, but while Kyrie Irving is a phenomenal basketball player, just LeBron and Kyrie Irving aren't enough to outscore Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant. That's just not enough. Not to mention Andre Iguodala coming off of the bench, who was a Finals MVP in 2015. Or Sean Livingston, who I've never seen him miss a single mid-range when he was on Golden State. When you take all of that into consideration, it makes total sense how LeBron couldn't get a good Finals record. And if Kevin Durant did not make that move, chances are LeBron would be sitting on a lot more championships than what he is right now. And it's the context that is not taken into account when talking about LeBron, and it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. But with that, we are out of time for the first segment, so now we are going to go into the second segment, where I talk about the Boston Celtics getting their revenge on Golden State by blowing them out. And blowing them out, saying that they got blown out is honestly very generous. And I can't say what I want to say live on stream because it's against the rules and regulations, but they really did them dirty this game. So stay tuned for that after this short break.
I feel like I'm losing my mind.